All right, welcome everyone to a Maize and Brew six pack. This is a special edition. This is the defense edition. We have defensive coordinator for the state champion Central Catholic Fighting Irish, Ryan Brown, with us here to talk a few questions. A five-time state champion, once as a player, four times on staff. Ryan, an old school buddy of mine. We go way back. Thanks for taking the time, my friend.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get through this. Listen to podcasts a few times. I really like. I'm a fan. So
Outstanding. I love that you're soft-spoken, very sweet, but on the field, a maniac, an absolute lunatic who is just trying to destroy the team across from him. So we are excited to talk some defense with you, man. Before we get into the six pack, how many D1, D2 players have you had the opportunity to coach, play alongside over at Central Catholic?
so I was trying to think back. I've been on varsity since 2010. So overall, I don't have overall number. We're over 20 overall Division One players. But on defense, we're at like 9. So
Okay.
a little over one per year, or a little under one per year. Excuse me.
Got you. And you had you were there coaching for Hudson, who Michigan fans right now might know, James Hudson, who came over as a tackle. Did he play both ways at Central Catholic?
Yes, he played offensive tackle and he played defensive end, and he was
Oh,
very good to say the least.
I saw him, dude. He was one of the first ones that I walked up and I was like, well, that guy's on a different level. That guy probably
Yeah,
belongs at a college football field. So that
yeah.
leads me to one of my first questions. When can you tell as a coach that one of your players has what it takes to make it to the next level? Is it just a size speed thing? Is it a like ability to be coached? Is it a combination? What is it?
First thing is that you'll notice, or anybody will notice, really, is going to be the size of the player, depending on the position. Obviously, linemen, you're looking for taller, wider bodies, but in general, you're looking for taller kids that stand out. It's kind of funny. College recruiters, Division One, they go a little different route than what we think who's really good and what they think's really good. They're all about body size and size of arms, length of arms, things like that. We're obviously we think a little different. I think we've had many players that could have been Division One over the past 15 odd years, but they tend to go a little different route, which I understand. I get why they do that, but don't necessarily agree with it. So.
Ryan, when you were starting out, and like, I mean, maybe you developed this as a player, or maybe it was early on in your coaching career, but who were your influences when developing your own defensive philosophy, and how has that changed over the years as offenses just kind of continue to evolve?
So when I first started coaching varsity, I was like 21. So I was very fortunate to work with a few guys. First being Nick Toth. He had previously coached at Ohio University for 10 years, and he was defense coordinator for the last 5 of those years. So I really got to see the work and the process that you go through day in and day out, the grind you have to go through. I was very fortunate to get that experience with him to see how hard this job really is. Right, this isn't easy. It's a grind. It's a daily grind. And I don't know if most people realize that. Even some high school coaches, I think they tend to think they're going to put 2 or 3 hours in a day and that's it. And this is during the season. This is 7 days a week. We're rolling, man. And that was such a great experience just because I got to see you can't cut corners. You have to watch all the film, right? You have to break down the opponent. You have to do these things daily to make sure you're going to be successful. Can you cut corners sometimes? Yeah. But will you be successful year in and year out? No, you won't. So
I like that. So how would you describe the defense that you run at Central Catholic? Maybe to someone that has like a cursory knowledge of football to maybe people that aren't like fully initiated like yourself.
So we call it just a basic 4-2. We have four down linemen, 2 linebackers, and then 5 DBs. used to be, I've changed a little bit. If you want to get back at the philosophy, used to be very, very aggressive. In the teens, 2015s to 2020, super aggressive. If we can, I guess we could liken it to Don Brown a little bit. Very aggressive, played mostly man. We brought pressure like crazy. So I've reversed, actually done, I don't want to say complete 180, but I reversed course a lot. Now, instead of bringing 6 or 7 guys a lot, I try to bring 4 or 5 from all over the place, though, different positions. So it was actually, I saw just Dave Aranda, who's the head coach of Baylor now.
Yeah.
When he was the DC at LSU, when they had that great run in 19, he had a quote that just completely changed the way I thought about defense and playing defense. And he likened it to a military term where he talked about bringing 6 or 7 is like you're dropping a carpet bomb, right? You were just trying to bring as many people as possible to cause chaos. Whereas he does a lot of like creepers and simulated pressures where he's only bringing 4 guys, but he likens them to like a precision guided missile, right? Because you're looking for that weakness within the offense, whether it's on the line with the running back and whatnot. So he's attacking, and he can be just as disruptive as bringing 6 or 7, but you're only bringing 4. And when I heard that, I thought about that for a long time, and I've completely changed how we run a defense. Now I don't want to say we're as conservative, but we bring a lot less pressure overall. We're still bringing 4 guys, 5 guys a lot, but we're not bringing 6 or 7 where we're either playing man or 2 under 3 deep and getting hung out to dry if we can't make the tackle in the backfield. So
it honestly tracks a lot with what Michigan has done. You talked about the Don Brown parallel in your career. I mean, Devin Bush was not really a linebacker at Michigan at times. He was just kind of like an extra rusher on the line of scrimmage. It felt like as much as he blitzed. But last season, it was all Michigan running twists and stunts and simulated pressure. And although you feel like you're being rushed by 7, you're only being rushed by 4. It's just coming from weird spots and weird angles. Now, when you're working with kids, does your philosophy change or alter based on the personnel, or are you looking for kids that can fit into your system and play a role?
I would love to get the kids just to play our system, but we have to adapt with what we got. I mean, we're still working with high school kids. We can't choose who we get. They show up. So I usually have to adapt to whatever we have. Fortunately, over the past few years, we've been pretty consistent with what we've been able to run. So hopefully it continues.
So from your perspective, and let's stay on this Don Brown to the Baltimore Ravens defense over a number of coordinators that we've had. What have you seen from your perspective going from the Don Brown era to the Michigan era that kind of makes that difference? Like, I know you probably are busy enough watching your own guys, but have you seen anything in particular where you're like, okay, I see why this is making a difference in Michigan's win total?
Yeah, I think when McDonald came in, and then with Minter carrying on the same defense, it's just you're just being a lot safer with your creeper blitzes, with your simulated pressures. They vary coverages all over the place, right? They're not just mainly playing cover 1 like they did with Don Brown. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you have to unpack as an offense trying to attack a defense like that is very has multiple ways to attack you. From an offense, just looking from an offense perspective, it becomes a lot harder, right?
Sure.
With Don Brown and the way you play, you have to so it's kind of funny. Man is very easy to teach. Defense coverage wise, very easy to teach, very easy to learn for kids. Very hard to play, right? It's very technique driven. It's very difficult. That's why we've gotten away from it, just because it's not the easiest thing to play. And if you're going against a team that's better than you athlete wise, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, and you saw that multiple times and it's not a knock on him, because I think Don Brown is an incredible coach, and I'm not trying to put him down at all, but it's just, if you don't have the dudes and it's the best, you are not going to win. So
it was the lack of adaptability. Like, there just wasn't a lot of change. And it's like, if you do the same thing over and over again, eventually guys are going to figure you out and scheme you up a certain way. And it's like, if you fail to adjust after that, there's going to continue to do that. But keeping with Michigan, like you talked about the evolution from McDonald to Mentor, how do you think the defense is going to stay the same or differ this year under Wink Martindale?
So under Wink, he tends to be a little bit more aggressive than the other two guys, but I think it's going to be pretty consistent. It's kind of funny. So McDonald took everything that Wink built with Baltimore and just put it together, put the playbook together, brother, I guess you could say. So if you think about it, so he literally went back, I did a lot of reading about this and I've talked to people about it, what McDonald did with the Ravens. He basically went back all the way to when Rex Ryan was the DC, all their calls, all their different fronts, all their different packages, and seam lined them. So he took all these different things and made it to where he can run the same blitz in every single different package they bring out on the field, whether they're bringing 6 DBs on the field, whether they got 4 linebackers on the field, whether they have 5 defensive linemen on the field, they can call the same exact blitz for every package and be able to run it. So that's where he streamlined the Baltimore Ravens defense. So Wink's walking in to where you can say he already has all his calls, or most of them, but in general, right? So I don't think there's going to be that much of a difference. Like I said, he is a tad more aggressive than the other two, but I mean, it's literally his defense that they were running.
He had a really cool quote this week, and Jared and I were just talking about it actually, where he was telling the media that they learned man defense first at Michigan because you have to understand that first before you can fall back in the zone. And he talks about you also have to teach these kids how to blitz and rush effectively before you talk about dropping back, because eventually you're going to need to play man or you're going to need to bring a pressure. And if you don't have those down pat and understood like the back of your hand, things can really fall apart for a defense quickly.
Well, here's the thing. Like most people don't realize like zone eventually becomes man at some point during the play. Right. So that's brilliant. I mean, you're going to be playing man at some point, whether you're in zone or you're in man, it's going to happen. So yes, I completely agree with that teaching.
So looking at this Michigan roster, I'm not sure exactly how familiar you are with what Michigan is bringing back, but this could arguably be one of the most talented Michigan defenses ever to suit up, just looking at what we've got on the field. So you were mentioning Wink Martindale being more aggressive. When you've got the strength that we have, which is a lockdown cornerback, potentially top 5 pick at defensive tackle who can both penetrate and stuff the run, and then a second defensive tackle that you also think is like an elite run stuffer as well. Like with what Michigan has, how could that aggression play out next season? Like we don't necessarily have an Aiden Hutchinson. We don't have a Devin Bush as like a linebacker that's going to come blazing in like a missile, but there's some really solid pieces there. How could that aggression play out on the field if you had to predict it?
Well, I mean, think about it. It's the Big Ten. What are we going to see most of the time? You're going to see 21 personnel. You're going to see 12 personnel, 11 personnel, smash mouth football still. Just side note, be interesting to see how USC and UCLA comes into play with that. But I mean, I think by nature, you have to be somewhat aggressive in the Big Ten just because the ball is going right at you, and whether you're going to stand there and take it or you're going to give it back, right? So I think with the players, the talent they have back, with the transfers they have coming in, DB wise, I think you will see some more man played this year than you've seen the previous few years, and I think they're going to be pretty good, really do.
Now, Ryan, you know a lot about different schemes, and I don't know how you pay this much attention to like Michigan and college football with everything you got going on 7 days a week, but they always say
you got a new baby in the house too.
Hey, congratulations, my man. That's awesome.
Thank you. That's awesome.
They always say the best coaches steal. Is there one play or one concept or one blitz you've seen another coach run? It could be at high school, it could be at college, it could be at NFL that you were like, oh, I got to put that in the playbook.
I don't think I have one original thought. I take everything. I mean, why?
So it's an honest answer.
Yeah, I mean, if I see it works multiple places, I'm like, yes, I'm taking that. So during the off season, I literally have any film. I have every single team in the country, so I'm able to watch and study and learn a lot. So during the season,
are you
I
watching
barely
like
see
the
anything.
Buccaneers with like a notebook, or are
Yeah, I
you
was gonna
just
say, do you
like,
have
yeah,
like
yeah?
a favorite DC or a favorite defense, whether it be NFL or college, you just love to watch?
McDonald's. I like Mentor. I like McDonald.
Yeah.
I like Aranda,
Nice.
even though he doesn't call the defense more just because he's head coach. So I like Schumann at Georgia. I think he does a great job. So I know Lanning doesn't call the defense at Oregon, but I think he does a great job as well. So, and then obviously when Saban was just the master, but he's gone to better times now. So
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in that retirement now, so he doesn't need to worry about these things anymore, constantly coming up with new blitz schemes. To turn the page a little bit to Ohio State, who we just got done covering in our last podcast. Last year, they were one of the best CFP era teams on defense with 11.2 points per game, just right behind Michigan at 10.4. That would put them as like the top 3 or in the top 5 for the college football playoff era. What have you seen from this Jim Knowles defense? You can go personnel, you can go roster, you can go Jim Knowles scheme itself, but like, what have you seen from this Ohio State defense that has made them really take a leap as far as defensive production?
So talk about like aggression and playing man defense, playing zero. A lot of times, 2 years ago, they gave up a ton of explosive. I remember reading a stat a few months ago about the difference between explosive plays they gave up this year compared to last year, and it was a significant reduction in explosive plays. I think the best example of it is 2 years ago when you had Edwards scored twice on 2 long runs against Ohio State. They were in basically zero blitz man coverage. Corners were pressed up, and once he broke through the first line, he was gone. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they played that a lot that year. And again, when you have the dudes to do it against most people, you're going to be successful with it. Well, when you run into somebody who's either close in talent or is better, you're going to struggle. So what did he do this year? He changed it up. He's not as aggressive. They weren't in zero as much as they were previously. The corners weren't always pressed. They were playing off now in man. So that really limited the explosive plays this year. So, and they got a lot of guys returning. Obviously, they're motivated. They want to beat Michigan this year. I think that had a big factor with all those dudes coming back on their defense. So I think they're going to be pretty good. I wouldn't expect much to change from their defense from last year. I don't know why they would change anything. Dang near everybody's back, and then you brought arguably the best safety in college football into your program. So I think they're going to be very similar, and they're going to be pretty dominant again.
Yeah, the Michigan-Ohio State game, as of right now in late July, it honestly just feels like first one to 20 is going to win this game because there's so many offensive questions on with both teams, but defensively, there's just studs on each side of the ball, which brings me to a question I'd love to hear your insight on. If you're building out your ideal defense, what would be the first position you would want? Would it be the lockdown corner? Would it be the run stuffer? Would it be a premier edge? Like, how do you envision building a defense in an ideal situation?
So what I would say is it depends on what level I'm at. So if I'm in high school, I want a dominant D tackle. Teams in high school football really struggle with really good defensive linemen, defensive tackles. In college or in the pros, give me the edge rusher all day. End of story. It's not even close. I love corners. We got a lockdown corner right now. It's gonna be a junior, but they can't cover forever, no matter how good you are. Give me the edge pressure in college and the NFL all day long.
I think that's like where you see the biggest difference, especially from like group of 5 schools, like MAC schools compared to like the Big Ten. It's like you see the difference on the line. Like you can see that in high school with your Division I athletes. Like it just changes everything for a team. The complete complexion of the game is shifted in the trenches that way.
Yeah, big time. I mean, there's a difference between the top 5 schools in the country, the top 10 schools compared to everybody else with the lines. It's not even close. And then the next thing is you may have a good first group, but then the second group falls off. Whereas you have Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Oregon, they're able to bring in 2-3 deep of guys. I mean, how many guys was Michigan rotating last year? on
Had
the
like
defensive
7
front.
defensive tackles they
Yeah,
rotated.
Yeah, it was an
I mean,
8-man rotation.
think about that. I mean, how many schools in the country could do that?
Yeah.
Very few, right? I mean, that's incredible depth that most schools aren't lucky to have. So,
Yeah, I love that answer, and I have to agree now, especially since someone that knows football more than I've forgotten about football, or has forgotten more than I
There
know.
you go.
Excuse me. There it is. But yeah, so you would rather have a Myles Garrett over a Sauce Gardner. I think that I understand that. So let me talk just a little bit about your philosophy here. Like, so when you're out there on the field and you're in the heat of battle, do you ever start to like kind of feel yourself and you're like, all right, 4th and 5, balls on our side of the field? You're like, you know what? Like we're in the zone. Like go for it on this one. Like, do you ever feel yourself as a coordinator, like you're in your zone, kind of like a player can get into their zone? Can a coordinator get into the zone and be like, this team can't do anything against me?
oh yeah, definitely. There's just times you feel like you feel like you're able to read what the offense coordinator is going to call. You're able to predict, and when you're able to do that, it feels so good when you know what's coming. So when you're basically you're calling their play before they're able to call their play, that's a really good feeling, and that just speaks to the amount of work you and your staff has put in for that week, and just picking up all the tendencies that they're showing. So yeah, it's fun.
There was an analyst last year that worked for Michigan. His name was Doug Mallory, and he was just a master at defensive concepts in the secondary and has been talked about a lot. I think he went over to the Seahawks. I think he joined McDonald. But like even just with a week to prepare for Washington, Mikey Sainristil just by alignment is like, okay, they're running this concept. They're running this. Like Jalen McMillan, the Washington receiver, talked about it, that Michigan knew what they were running ahead of time. And like having that preparation and there's that kind of confidence, I can imagine like as a player and as a coach, just feeling so dialed into everything a team is serving up to you.
Yeah. So I forget who said a famous coach said this quote, but every play has a story. You just gotta read it. So I mean, people,
hard line.
Offenses they give away what they're doing all the time, whether by the formation, alignment, or whatnot. I mean, they make it pretty obvious, and if they're going to show it, we're going to take advantage of it, which I'm sure we do on defense too. But you got to put the work into to find what the tells are. So believe me, we've gone. There's been game plans just based on how people align, where the kids on the field are making the call, just based on the formation, the alignment, how reduced the receivers are, things like that, where I'll completely put it in the kids' hands and they'll make the call just based off that. And we've been very successful doing that.
I'm sure you're telling just like linebackers and stuff the smallest details of you stand over the A gap and not the B gap because you're giving away this coverage out here, or you're mixing things up in a certain way. It's like where those small details all kind of add up. Like I think last year it was anytime Marvin Harrison Jr. had just a shortened split on the outside, you knew a run was coming to the opposite side, or the way he drops his hands or had his hands up, you knew whether he was going to get the ball and stay engaged. And I always find those little details fascinating from a coaching perspective, just picking up on those in film.
Yep. So that is putting in the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you can always find, I've seen to where we played a team where the quarterback, when he had his feet balanced, he was handing the ball off. When he had one foot up, and when they were in gun, he was passing. Literally it was 100% throughout the games we broke down. And then when we played him, it was 100% run or pass based on his feet. I mean, it's amazing what people will give away without even realizing it. So, and then that's our job to pick up on those things. So
I think that's what I really find fascinating about Michigan last year against Penn State, when it's like, you know what? They're giving us problems on the edge. We can't get our snap count right. They have a quick step. Let's run the ball 32 straight times. Let's just line up, show our hand, and then just pummel them into submission with 2 extra offensive linemen. Like, I love how football can be so complex and yet so simple at the same time.
Yeah, well, just in general, trying to defend Michigan's offense over the past few years has to just be terrible. I can't imagine going through it, because you're going from 11 personnel to 12 personnel to what you'd call like 0 or 1.
They run 13.
Yeah, well, I mean, they run 13 personnel, but then heck, in that Penn State game, and they brought in 3 linemen sometimes.
Yeah.
And then they'll motion people all over the place. They'll shift people all over the place. And it's not easy to cover all those gaps. I think people really struggle to understand, like, how could you not stop that run against Michigan? Well, they're adding. So you got to imagine when you bring in an extra person, it adds 2 gaps on the field, right? So when you bring 3 extra linemen, there's 6 possible extra gaps you have to defend now, right? That becomes just so much harder, and it would have been a nightmare to try to defend that.
Yeah. And it's hard to match the personnel in a split second because you're bringing like 240-pound linebackers there when Michigan's bringing in a 340-pound extra tackle, and it's like, well, I think they're going to have a leverage advantage here.
Yeah. I mean, and look what they did to Alabama and Washington. They're literally shifting or motioning on every single play, right? That's like the hardest thing as a defensive coordinator. You got to prepare for motions and shifts, right? It's hard for me to because we gotta break all that stuff down. Now for me, it doesn't matter what I know; it's what we can teach our kids, right? So they got to be the ones that be able to react to all the motions and shifts, correct?
Yeah.
So that can be very tedious, right? Because if you're off by a few yards one way or the other, you can potentially give up a big play, and to face that every single play is not easy. I don't care how many coaches you have. I don't care how many analytical guys you have. Like I know, Saban's at Bama, they had 50 extra dudes.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't matter. It's what the kids know. It's what the kids have to be able to react to. And all that's happening within 1 or 2 seconds before a snap. It is a lot to prepare for. I know this is a defensive chat, but just getting into the offensive side, I'm so glad I don't have to defend something like that. That's all I got to say.
So. Man, this conversation, I think I'm going to come away from this realizing like it's so much about the kid and their capacity to like pick up on things. Like obviously you need an athlete. They need to have X amount of speed. They need to be able to do whatever you need them to be able to do physically on the field. But just after this conversation, like what are you able to pick up in 4 years? Because both at your level and at the college level, you only get 4 years
so much
with a kid. So like it just, this conversation is making me realize like what can you pick up in 4 years?
Yeah. So I was this past season. You guys know who Jerry Glanville is?
Yeah, I do.
So he was old head coach Atlanta Falcons in the 90s, not Tennessee Oilers, the Houston Oilers. Wow. Yeah, we're going back. The Houston Oilers in the 80s. And he DC'd at both of them as well. So he's from Perrysburg, which is a suburb close to Toledo. So
close to where Brownie and I grew up.
Yeah. And so he lives back here now, or he did. He's actually took a new job. So he was around last year. So he came to our games. He came to like 6 or 7 of our games, and I got to meet with him frequently throughout the year, just talking football. And this is the guy that's been the NFL. He literally had one of the best, if not the best, defenses of all time for the Atlanta Falcons in the late 70s, where they gave up 9.2 points per game. So his biggest thing is keeping everything simple. And you're talking elite of the elite pro NFL players, where this is literally their job, and he teaches it as simple as it can be, right?
I don't want to give Ohio State credit for anything in this world, but that was one of the things that Jim Knowles talked about was they have, I believe it's 1-word calls on defense now. It's just 1 word, simple, so you don't have to worry about the verbiage, remembering this and that. You hear tomato, and you know what defense you're running now.
So with the 1-word calls, they'll pack in. It's a lot of memorization, so they'll pack in 6 or 7 words into the 1-word calls.
Yeah.
So that can get. We try to do that to a limit. We can't do too many now, but because obviously you want to keep everything as simple as possible, because you want to get lined up as quick as possible to be able to play. Actually, this past summer, probably I think at the beginning of June, we were able to sit down as a staff and meet with Dean Pease.
Oh, so
wow. He coordinated the Ravens. He's actually from the area as well. So we got all these NFL guys that live around here.
Shout out Northern Ohio.
Yeah. So he coordinated for the Ravens for I think 6 years. So his biggest message as well is keep it as simple as possible. So Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. They both coach high school football for a bit, and then they went up through the college ranks and they went to the NFL. So they know that we got the younger kids, the high school kids. You have to keep it simple. So they obviously they kept that philosophy all the way up through all three different levels. So yeah, man.
That's all.
Again, if it doesn't matter what we know, how much we know, if the kids can't line up and play, I mean, what are you going to do? So
Yeah, 100%, man. Ryan, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much for geeks
Yes.
like Andy and I to be able to talk to
Yes.
somebody that actually like knows ball, plays ball, and is in there in the trenches. I mean, maybe not physically anymore, but as close as you can be out
You can
there.
still line him up.
Before,
I think he can still do
yeah,
it.
yeah. Oh, I
yeah.
saw him the other day. He's looking good. He could still line it up. So talk to us a little bit. Central Catholic, are you guys off back to back? How many state championships have you won in a row, and what's the outlook for this year?
We won 2 in a row. So
That's what I thought.
actually, somebody told me, I think 2 weeks ago, that we have the top 10 longest streak in the nation. We're at 31 straight games right
Ooh.
now. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's legit.
We're gonna be we're younger this year. It's gonna first 5 or 6 games are pretty tough, so it's gonna be a very good experience to see where we stand as a team. So ready to get at it. I'm excited. We start tomorrow. 2-a-day start tomorrow. So
Jared, we're gonna have to catch a
love it.
game.
rolling.
Oh no, we're catching a game for sure. Yeah. I mean, Whitmer's that's kind of the local rivalry. I'm interested in that,
Yeah.
but y'all are playing a lot of like the Michigan teams right now. Like you've kind
Yeah.
of changed leagues to where you're playing a lot of the like Warren De La Salles of the world and stuff like that. Am I right?
Yeah, we're in the Catholic School League in Michigan now, which is a very rich tradition, multiple state champions. I think the league we're in, all the teams we joined, they all have at least 5 or plus. I mean, some have 10 plus. It's really good league. I mean, the competition is really good. It's a fun league. Get you psyched up every week. You don't want to say when you get down against some bad opponents, but it's human nature, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this league, it's you better come every single week or you're going to be paying. So we had to play it. Last year was our first year. So we ended up winning the league. It was fun though, man. It's just great going against good competition. So
I love it. Can't wait. I'll be up to catch at least one game. Andy and I will both try and catch a game together. Is there anybody on the roster we need? If you're allowed to say it, if you're not, like just wave me off. Is there anybody coming that Michigan might be looking for as far as a recruit?
So we have a 2026 corner right now named Victor Singleton. He's got quite a few Power 5 offers, including Ohio State.
Oh, we got to get him then. Gotta have him.
Can't go there. No.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta have him.
So he's pretty athletic, man. He had a great year last year. He started all 16 games as a sophomore last year, did a great job, above and beyond expectations, and he's doing a great job right now. So we'll hopefully we continue, get it rolling. So
love it. That's outstanding. Good luck to you guys on this upcoming season. We will definitely be up there to check it out. You are welcome on this podcast whenever, my friend. Really appreciate your time. This for guys like us, we love this stuff. We love getting deep into it. We'd take up 3 hours of your time if you didn't have a baby and a wife at home.
Yeah. So no, I appreciate it, guys. It's a lot of fun, and I would love to be back anytime. So let me know. Hopefully I have time during the season a little bit. I could probably eke out 20 minutes somewhere, but
There we go.
It's probably
great.
probably best if you don't have time during the season because that means y'all are rolling again.
Yeah.
So
yeah. All right, man. Wishing you guys the best. Ryan Brown, defensive coordinator for the Central Catholic Fighting Irish, state champions out of Ohio. Thank you, sir, for your time. That's going to do it for this 6-pack. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. You'll be getting more of these from us on Maize and Brew as the season continues. We appreciate you. Remember, wherever you go, go blue.